In this episode, we're going to discuss news and reviews from the DC Comics universe. We've got 2 new shows coming out. They've just announced Metropolis, a new show set in Metropolis, and Krypton, a show set on Krypton. Plus, we got some great episodes from Supergirl and The Flash recently. You're listening to the Legends of Podcasting. With me, as usual, are
Stuart
and Ross.
And I'm Liam. Now, don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, please like it and comment on it wherever you found it. We're on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, SoundCloud, pretty much anywhere that quality podcasts live. You can also find and follow us across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So if you want to stay up to date or get in touch with us, you can find us on all those places. Or if you prefer email, you can reach out to us at legendsofpodcasting@gmail.com. Now let's get on with the show.
During the 21st century, comic books conquered the world and murdered everyone's spare time. I have assembled an elite team to hunt comic book stuff down throughout media and to cover their rise to power. Unfortunately, my plan is opposed by general life obligations, meaning instead of daily, we can do this weekly, thanks to something we have sworn our allegiance to: time management. In the future, we ourselves may not be heroes, but if we succeed, we will be remembered as the Legends of Podcasting.
So, I think it was a bit of a surprise, kind of come out of nowhere, was the announcement of a new TV show from DC for their digital-only service, which is based in Metropolis. And as the synopsis puts it like this: Metropolis will follow Lois Lane and Lex Luthor as they investigate the world of fringe science and expose the city's dark and bizarre secrets. Airing exclusively on DC's upcoming digital service, it promises to show us a wondrous and awe-inspiring city of tomorrow before the emergence of Superman, and establish much of the Man of Steel's world leading up to his arrival. So this is coming from the executive producers behind Gotham, which is why it sounds very similar to Gotham, which, my initial reaction on that was, Gotham before Batman was there. My first thought was, why? Because it didn't sound too interesting until they then said, well, really it's the story of Jim Gordon, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I know you guys don't really watch Gotham, but I watch it and I love it. I think it's a really well-written show. It's a really good show, and it's grown really well. And they've done a good way of establishing the world and establishing a world that needs a Batman. So it answers that question of, well, are the costumed crazy villains a response to Batman, or is Batman a response to the crazy villains? Well, Batman's a response to the villains, is what Gotham has basically established. But like I said, I feel like they've done a really good job. It's a really fun show. So this idea of Metropolis before Superman, I think it's interesting. It's questionable as to just how, what characters are going to be appearing in it. I don't think there can really be too many people that they can bring into this without Superman. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. The rise of Lois Lane as a reporter. I imagine it's going to start with her either getting to the Daily Planet, because if you think of it, most TV shows start off when they're pitched to a network, is that it's pitched with a 5-season story arc. So you've got to show that this story has legs if it can carry on. So you're going to look at that like 5 seasons, that's 5 years. And this is all going to be before there's a Superman. So are we taking Lois in college as she's learning about journalism? Are we starting at that point, or and it's her journey to the Daily Planet? Or is this her starting at the Daily Planet and her establishing herself as this big reporter? Yeah, so what were your guys' thoughts on this?
Well,
what do you think?
The thing that first got me was the way the first sentence of the synopsis started was it was Lois and Lex. Is that they're working together, or is it they're both in it and they're working separately? That was my first question reading that. I thought, that might be quite good if, like, maybe Lex has only just arrived in Metropolis to take over his dad's part of the corporation, that part of the country, and they meet, and then they start finding all this weird stuff, and then friction happens between them, and they become quite good enemies, and then later on Superman turns up, and that's where the rivalry comes in. Or are they is it just the way it was written? And like Lex is going to be more of the underground stuff. He's going to be doing his normal villainy things of hiring people and doing experiments and stuff. And then Lois is going to be finding out about this. I don't know, but it'd be quite interesting. I'm also really interested in who they're going to cast for this show as well, because I really liked. Is it Michael Rosenberg, the guy that did the Flash voice in Justice League and it was in Smallville?
Yeah, in Smallville. Yeah.
I really liked his Lex, so I'd love it if they brought him back, but I doubt they'll do that. But it'd be interesting to see who they cast for that. But yeah, it's like, are they going to have like Jimmy Olsen and Perry White? You'd have thought they would do, but you don't know.
I was seeing Perry's going to be in there. I don't know if Jimmy would be too young, because Jimmy's. Say as Liam was saying, depends where they pick it up from. I would sort of think that they would. I would hope that it would be sort of how you would have a lot of Superman TV shows and like the movies as him coming to the Daily Planet. It'll be the role reversal of Lois Lane coming to the Daily Planet. I guess Jimmy would potentially be too young. Don't know. Maybe you'll see him as like a.
Well, he might be a little copy boy or something. Really like he's studying in college and he just does. He's there once a week. Doing an internship.
Work experience or something.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of possibilities they could go with. So you could definitely have Perry White in there. You could have maybe the guy from Star Labs. You could have Star Labs in there quite easily.
I mean,
but other than
this being in the, is this actually going to? No, it's not. It's on the DC online thing. So what world is this going to be in? Is it going to be the same as Gotham? Will it be separate? Will they tie it in with the new Titan show? Be interested to see what they do.
I don't know how you tie it with the Titan show, because Titan show has all the sidekicks, so it means all the heroes are already.
No, but existing. I mean, it could be the same universe, but like Titans is in the future of this same universe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that'd be quite cool. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what they do.
It'd be interesting. I say it's one of those shows where I know we spoke about it a few days ago, and I was just like, what? Who came up with this idea? Like, so I can sort of get. I say I've watched a couple of seasons of Gotham, and although I enjoy it, it never quite hooks me as much as it should. I do want to try and watch it when I can, but it's to the point of when I've been watching the first couple of seasons, it's the point of at the moment Jim Gordon is so good. Why would you need a Batman? So you could get the sort of same thing with this. Is Lois Lane so good at stopping criminals and by reporting on them, and never gets in trouble, because usually in Superman shows she's always goes too far to try and get a story and gets in trouble, then Superman has to save her. That if she can get the story and doesn't need saving, then why do you need sort of like Superman becomes a bit redundant to her? Don't say it'd be interesting to see where they go with it, and it's just another show. I never thought I'd ever say this, but there's too many superhero shows to watch now.
Yeah, it's a kind of a funny problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, years ago when it was like just Smallville once a week, and it was like can't wait for that one show to watch. Or like when one of my favorites when it was like the Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher Superman TV show. But like that was the only thing you had really, and then obviously the old cartoons, like the animated series cartoons, and now you've got CW shows on every day pretty much, and then you've got
it's like 2 a day to watch.
Gotham, Metropolis, Shield.
Yeah.
It's at a point where you can't watch all the shows, it's a struggle. But you have to pick and choose which ones you're going to watch, because if you want to watch all of them, that's your life.
I mean, you've got the Netflix ones that come out every so often and all at once, and you feel you have to binge watch them, otherwise you're going to get spoiled.
Yeah, it's too much. But then, so DC wise, so we have this Metropolis show, which is set in a Metropolis before there was a Superman. And then over on Sci-Fi, we have Krypton, which is set on Krypton before you have Superman. So then the synopsis of that is set 2 generations before the destruction of the legendary Man of Steel's home planet. Krypton follows Superman's grandfather, whose House of El was ostracized and shamed, as he fights to redeem his family's honor and save his beloved world from chaos. And this says it's also based on DC characters. Krypton is executive produced by David S. Goyer, who did Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Dark Knight trilogy. And Cameron Welsh, who does Ash vs. Evil Dead, which is a fun show, is going to serve as executive producer and showrunner. So this, I think, looks pretty cool. They've said now officially that it's not actually connected into the movie universe, although it draws a lot of
Visual
inspiration. Yeah, visual inspiration from the movie universe. And
the
by all
Hasselhoff
accounts,
logo is identical.
yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's like this is set so far before.
Why not? Why not link it?
You know, why don't you just say it's linked? You know, like, because it doesn't really matter what you do. Because at the end of this, the planet's blowing up, and that's all that's needed in order for this to really tie in.
Yeah.
You know, that, and I guess you know, you don't want to get Russell Crowe. You know, because
well, the other thing is that they might have an idea that, you know, because in Man of Steel you have the Codex thing where, you know, there was artificial reproduction, wasn't there? And he was the first natural birth, and that's why Superman was so special. That maybe they're not going to go down that route, and that's why it's not tied in. That's the only thing I can really think why they wouldn't do that.
Well, so yeah, the trailer looks really cool. And I say in the trailer, you've got Adam Strange coming with Superman's cape and giving it, saying you need to.
Your grandson is the most what's it called? Most powerful, most what's he say?
Hero in history or something like that, isn't it? It's just that's a cool idea, and I'm very excited about this one because you could take it so many directions, but then again it's going to be, as you said, most shows have like a 5-year lifespan. So are they planning in the 5th series for it to be?
Because pretty much the one season,
a few years, and Jor-El's going to be in it by the 5th season, and.
Because the one season has to be him stopping this person that's come from the future to blow up the planet. Surely they have to resolve that in the first season. They can't keep that going in the background. So once they resolve that, that's like, well, that's it. Mission accomplished. Everything carries on as usual. Unless that just literally snowballs. And then, right, that's happened. So this has changed for this season. Oh, we changed that. So this is going to happen in season 3. And it just keeps on going. Never-ending cycle until the planet finally blows up.
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they've got to have. Although shows when they're pitched to a network are typically would be pitched with a 5-season story arc, it doesn't mean they necessarily are going to stick to that story arc. Few shows do. Another show on the CW, which is called Supernatural, that one had its 5-season story arc and it stuck to it. And if you watch that show, those 5 seasons put together follow a very clear story. Although watching them as you go season by season, you wouldn't think that there is this overarching story that goes right through. In fact, come season 4, you think that it's kind of gone off the rails a bit. But by the end of season 5, all of a sudden, the 5 seasons look so good together. You know, you've got this great story that goes through. But like I say, that's very rare that most shows will stick to that. A lot of the time, it's like the first season is the main establishing season, and then after that you get a change in the creative teams and they like to make some changes and the story can go in different directions. But then again, with the DC shows, they tend to keep the same executive producers on there.
Arrow's a prime example of a 5-year cycle, isn't it, where he finally it completely finishes up with him off the island and everything, so flashbacks have all stopped.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this one will be this will be quite interesting because you can go loads of different ways with it. But you could bring. I just throw an idea that you could have Brainiac come into it somehow, depending which way they're going to do with Brainiac. Whether he's going to be the artificial intelligence that's in Krypton, or if he's going to be an alien from another planet who comes along. I mean, they're going to show Kandor, which would be really cool. They're going to have Supergirl's grandparents.
Yeah, it's a valid point. I didn't think about the Supergirl connection to it, but yeah, I would imagine. I always figured Brainiac has to appear somewhere, you know, at a point.
Maybe we see the creation of him if he's going to be an artificial intelligence. You know
what they could also have on there is Doomsday.
Well, they've announced that Hawkgirl and Doomsday are going to appear.
Oh,
yeah. So you got Thanagarians are in it, so that's quite cool. I mean, you could potentially have. Does Krypton know about Apocalypse and the New Gods, and have like mentions of Darkseid and stuff? Well, Darkseid's, I guess, granddad as well. Depends how long he lives for, but you could just load that. This one's. I'm a lot more excited about this one because they can actually go so many different directions than with the Metropolis one I just mentioned.
I just have another thought. You could also have Zod's grandfather. That's where the whole family feud thing kind of.
I think they've said something about Zod in it.
Cool.
You know what? I'm pretty sure there is a Zod connection that's coming in there. Allura Zod, the primus of the Kryptonian military guild and mother of Lita?
Oh, so Lighter's in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So,
yeah, the mother of Supergirl. Yeah, okay. Right, yeah.
Allura,
Allura's in it.
yeah.
Yeah,
She has her first name, Allura Zor-El.
Oh, God.
So, you know, there's a lot of potential with this Krypton show. I'm excited about it. You know, it's also what I think is cool on this is it's an area that's not really touched upon. You know, because this is so far before the anything that's normally looked at in the comics and the movies and cartoons and that you can really do whatever you want in this, but you're setting it within this kind of universe. And I loved how Krypton was depicted in Man of Steel. So, you know, I'm looking forward to this. I'm kind of excited to see what they do.
Do you know what would be really nice is you could have them exploring, if they're going to meet Thanagarians and stuff, that means they're probably going to explore other planets. And you might have an episode or two where they arrive on Earth or a planet that's like Earth, and then they learn that, oh my God, we've actually got these amazing powers under a yellow sun. And then that's where the knowledge comes from, that Zor-El realizes, oh, I can send my son to a planet that has a yellow sun and he will survive. And you'll see them first learning, testing their powers out. That'd be quite cool to see.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Loads of different ways you can. And also, as you said, Liam, that there's not too much. All the comics I've read of Superman, you obviously got just as Krypton blows up, and there's a few comics where Krypton comes back. So but you never actually have the 200 years before. So you could make up, the world is their oyster technically. I mean, there's a few things you have to follow, like the houses and things like that. But other than that, you could pretty much go to town with it. You can go anywhere you want to. Which is quite an exciting.
You could have them finding, the Phantom Zone or creating the Phantom Zone, and then that's where they start putting the villains, each week. A bit like in Flash, where they built they re-rigged Star Labs to hold the metahumans. These guys find the technology, or if it is a different planet or universe, reality, whatever they're going to do with the Phantom Zone, and that's where they start putting criminals in.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. There's so much potential. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of Krypton, which is the home planet of Superman and also the home planet of Supergirl, we had a pretty cool episode of Supergirl this week. Yeah. I did the quick synopsis, just as a reminder here, states, someone tries to kill Morgan Edge and he barely survives. He accuses Lena of being behind the attempt and vows to destroy her. When Lena fears her hatred for Morgan will take her to the Luthor dark side, Kara steps in to help her friend. Meanwhile, after Sam realizes she's losing time, she confides in Alex, who decides to run some medical tests to see if she can find out what's going on with her new friend. But the coolest thing on this episode was what, Stuart?
Was the Lex exosuit, pretty much exactly the same as it is in the comics. I was shocked when I saw that. I was not expecting that at all. And a kryptonite sword coming out of the arm as well.
Yeah, they just came out of nowhere. Yeah. This was,
I mean, they set it up last season to showing us Lex's little vault of goodies.
Yeah, I thought that would be it.
You thought, that's a really cool Easter egg, and then all of a sudden, boom, she's actually using it for herself. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it kind of establishes her as the real bad Luthor in this storyline, because I think the question had always been, is Lena gonna basically become a female Lex? Well, this seems to suggest no, she's not, but her mum is.
Yeah.
Because her mum is full on Lex, only the way they're presenting it here is that she's actually a better Lex Luthor. She's a better Luthor than Lex was.
Yeah, which I thought is really, really cool. I have to say, it was good. I think it's quite interesting because it's the penultimate episode because they're having the sort of four episodes and then the break for Legends of Tomorrow to come back. I'm quite surprised there wasn't too much about Reign in this because I thought that the Reign story arc was going to finish next week, but I'm assuming not, as they didn't really touch on it at all this episode. She was Sam the mum for the whole episode, which is a.
Well, I think this was our time. This little, I think 4-episode little bit we've got before the break is our time to connect, to sympathize with her. You know, as like she's this mother, she's not in control of this. Like it's, you know, isn't this sad? She's becoming this big villain, and she really doesn't want to be. She has no control over this. So I think she is ultimately what's going to be in the big finale is what we're leading up towards. But this kind of, you know, established the friendship between the characters here, and ultimately lines up Alex becoming the new mum to Sam's kid, because you know, something's going to happen to Sam by the end of the season, and Alex has wanted, this season's been all about Alex wanting to be a mum, you know, so I think that's what's going to happen by the end of the season, especially as we see Alex spend a lot of time with Sam's kid.
Yeah, I think like I think we spoke about this the last time, where I think she's going to die, but I now think that Sam will, because I think before when we last spoke, we didn't know about the other world killers, and there's at least 2, if not 3 or 4 world killers, and I think Sam at the end is going to somehow switch and become on Supergirl's side and help her take out the other world killers, and at the same time sacrifice herself and die, and that is when Alex will take over Ruby. That's what
Totally agree.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, no, which is quite a cool thing. So it's sort of will make sense going that way, and even having like the Legion of Superheroes in the show. I know you only had Monel this week. You didn't have Brain. I don't know where Brainiac and Saturn Girl went to, but
they went to a Bon Jovi concert, I believe.
Yeah. Bon Jovi was touring National City. So I thought, I mean, the show is so good now that just dropping little Easter eggs, like he just said, oh, you know, when we defeated Zod in the future, and then like wins back. I just like he just drops it. Like, I mean, a lot of the shows do it, but I think because we're all massive Superman fans, we just pick up on these things so much, and it's just like that. It's a really cool thing to have. To just do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's better than him saying just any other random villain from the future. You know, it's a character everybody knows, and like Wynn's reaction was fantastic. Like Wynn and Cisco are pretty much us in the show. That's what they're designed to do. They say everything that us fans would thinking and say. They're great. Yeah,
I agree. So yeah, I actually quite like Manel's development as well, because last season I wasn't a massive fan, because he was just like sort of annoying and didn't understand stuff. Obviously now he's had this big thing in the future, and he's basically taken everything that she taught him and become like a leader of the Legion of Superheroes. I actually quite like him as a character now. You could quite easily
become very cool.
You could ship them off into another TV show. I know there's too many already. Technically, you could have like a Legion of Superheroes TV show, and I'd be 100% up for watching that.
I would watch that, definitely. Especially if they did an episode where they go back in time and get Clark Kent.
Oh, like a cartoon.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be great. You know, if they're gonna, I feel like if they're gonna keep on adding all these extra shows, they've got to scale down the number of episodes in a season in order for us to be able to watch them all. Because I want to watch them all, but there just ain't time.
Yeah.
But as we were saying there, you mentioned Cisco. That makes a perfect segue through to this week's episode of The Flash, which was also a great episode. So, as the synopsis goes, a Meta who can shrink anything he touches battles Team Flash. Cisco and Ralph get caught in his crossfire and are shrunk to miniature versions of themselves. Cecile realizes her pregnancy has caused her to have temporary powers and discovers she can hear other people's thoughts, which unnerves Joe. Meanwhile, Barry meets someone with a mysterious connection to Henry Allen. So this was a really fun episode this week. Ross, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. It was, like I was saying, it is quite similar to the Ant-Man trailer where everything starts to shrink and everything. You know, he just, what was that new Cord Industries building that, I think, was it Black Siren blew it up, didn't she, originally? Because I remember it having stilts. She blew a building up before with stilts, and this had stilts. So I'm guessing it was or was that Mercury Labs?
I'm not sure, I can't remember.
I remember there was a building with stilts got blown up. I thought it was a remake of it, and then she's like, oh, this is the most secure building, nobody will ever do anything to this, and then a second later, bang, it's been shrunk and stolen. No, that was fantastic. Yeah, the gold. What's Goldberg's character called? Well, Barry's friend in prison. He was a. I really liked his character, and I think the way they sent him off was so good.
That was great.
Even though it was a bit of a consequential for Barry, but yeah, I didn't think he was. I was hoping he would get a good ending, but I thought, oh no, they're not. They're just gonna show you that no, everything isn't as clear as movie. What do they say? Not everything ends the way the movies do, but the way he actually left him in China, that was great.
That was very cool.
Yeah, no one's gonna find him up there. He's safe. He's gonna be with people that they don't even talk. So he's got a great cover.
But then again, he's also out there with no money.
Yeah,
nothing. He's now homeless out in China, can't speak the language. So how nice was Barry in that? He didn't even give him like a little phrase book, a little, he can translate some stuff. No, this guy's screwed.
He could have picked up some money on the way,
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, wasn't expecting, Flash to get caught at the end of that and now being taken elsewhere. That was, I wasn't expecting that. So I wasn't sure where they were going with this story, but I didn't expect him to be in jail very long. So I think I'm wrong on that. It's I think he's going to be locked up for a little while.
Yeah.
But it depends what happens to him at the end, because they're taking him away somewhere, aren't they? So once he escapes from there, will he be free? I mean, or will they sort of turn in the head guard who's throwing that woman up?
Yeah, I mean, what do they want with him? I mean, is it Clifford?
Well, the head guard's going to sell him to.
Yeah, I'm assuming that he'll come back. So will then Barry go, that head guard tried to sell me just some crazy women? I'm guessing they're going to be doing like some sort of meta-human fighting or something like they did in Supergirl last season or season before.
Like underground fighting.
Yeah, the underground sort of cage fighting. I'm assuming it'll be something like that.
Or do you reckon it is Clifford DeVoe is doing some? He's orchestrating what she's doing, and it's all part of his plan still. Or do you reckon it's just her on her own acting out?
No, it has to be him. Because he's this season's bad guy. Yeah. And the whole thing is meant to be that he has everything planned out. He knows how this is all going to go. So he's playing some big game of chess. This has to be what he's doing. I'm just curious. I don't know how Flash is going to beat him on this.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely Wells is going to be very much a part of trying to figure out what he's doing, what his game plan is. That's like, for me, like after he was doubting himself so much in that, not being able to restore Cisco and oh my god, what's he looking man's name? Ralph. Back to almost killed them all pretty much. I think that's the end. He's just pretty much going to be concentrating on that now until he figures it out. Be interesting to see I'm really interested to see what the story is with Clifford, because I haven't got a clue what his game plan is. Not
interesting, because we can guess Supergirl's ending.
Yeah,
we all sort of agree on it, but the Flash, she's got like no clue what's happening.
No.
Which is cool. It's cool when you've got a show where the big story, it's not predictable. No. You can't quite see where this is going. So
because like the previous ones, it was just him. He just needs to get faster than the enemy, pretty much. But this one, it doesn't matter how fast he goes. He's just being outclassed. So yeah, it's. I thought it was a bit of a weak start to the season, but after the mid-season break, I'm actually really enjoying it now. Definitely picked up.
All right. So, that's it for this week, guys. Lots of cool stuff going on with in the world of comic books at the moment. It's an exciting time. So remember, if you enjoyed this podcast, Legends of Podcasting, you can find us across social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're now on Instagram as well. So follow us in these places. You can send us a message. We'd love to hear from you guys. Leave us a comment or a review on iTunes, on Stitcher, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. And subscribe where possible. And you'll get notified when we have our next episode. Until next time.